All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's a time for our next session, which is unlocking the value of IP in the digital age, monetization of IP-driven research in the knowledge economy. And to chair the session, may I request Professor Anil Sahasrabudhe, Chairman of National Education Technology Forum and Chairman of EC National Assessment and Accreditation Council, to kindly come on stage, and I want you all to give a huge round of applause to him. And I am going to announce the entire panel. Mr. John Quebeca, U.S. Intellectual Property Counselor for South Asia, to kindly come and settle. Mr. Ben Llewellyn Jones, Director, Business and International Policy, UKPTO. Mr. Watanabe Hiroki, Director, Japan External Trade Organization, JETRO. Shri Prabuddha Ganguly, CEO, Vision IPR. Shri Vijay Chathaiwale, eminent biotechnologist, member of MHLC, Atal Innovation Mission. और मेरी आप सभी से रिक्वेस्ट है, एक बार जोरदार तालियां बजा दीजिए for all our panel members and the person who is going to chair, Professor Anil Sahasrabudhe. I And to welcome all our gentlemen who are here on dais, I request Shri N.K. Mohanty, Senior Joint Controller of Patents and Designs, to kindly come and present this bouquet to each one who's present here on dais. और आप सभी की तालियां मैं चाहती हूँ जरूर बजती रहें, as we have some international guests as well on stage. Guys, I want you all to give a round of applause. जोरदार तालियां बजती रहेंगी तो आपको भी मजा आएगा और हमें भी मजा आएगा इस सेशन को कंडक्ट करने में. So it's a humble request once again to each one of you. Come on, guys. Show your energy now. And for the coming hour, I am leaving you all with our guests who are here for the discussions. Over to Professor Anil Sahasrabudhe.
Good afternoon, all of you. Is it audible? I don't think so. Hello. Now it's okay. Good afternoon, everyone. After a very exciting session, previous session, where Honorable Minister Piyush Goyal ji laid the roadmap for what is in store and what we need to do. This is going to be a very important session where there are 5 panelists: unlocking the value of IP in digital age, monetization of IP-driven research is a very important topic in today's world. And we have people from different countries joining this panel, and therefore it's going to be very exciting in terms of how in each of these countries IP, which is very important in terms of knowledge generation, and then also patenting, and finally productization and monetization is very, very important. And how best experiences of each one of them, best practices, they can share with each other, and then we will move forward. It's almost fag end. We are a little late. Nevertheless, all the knowledgeable speakers who are there in the audience, as well as the speakers here in the dais, I think they will make justice to limited time which is available. Let me start from my extreme left side. John Kabeka. I think what is it that you look for in what we term as unlocking the value of IP? Because one is creating IP, but after creating the IP, what is it that unlocking is going to happen? How does it happen?
Thank you, sir, and nice to meet everyone on the panel, and it's wonderful to be here today. And congratulations to the IP Office and to DPIIT and the Ministry of Commerce for an amazing program today. I thoroughly enjoyed last year's, and I did a podcast in September, and in that podcast I said, oh, I can't wait till the next National IP Day, and here we are. So I'm very happy to be here. When it comes to unlocking the value of IP, the first thing that comes to mind is being able to obtain that IP. And obviously that's a challenge, especially in, across many industries, whether it's digital, high tech, biotech, or anything in between. But at the same time, I think when we look at, a valuable IP, it's one that brings certain predictable, reliable results, one that examiners are guided into making consistent decisions, one that helps applicants and applicants' representatives in preparing an application to present before an office in a way that helps the examiner make their determination in an expedited manner, but one that brings predictability and reliability, and most importantly, consistency across the entire system. And so, and I think that all of our offices, even here at the table, as well as here in India and throughout the world, have struggled with that in various stages of their development in various industries, even to today. And I just wanted to commend the recent announcement by the IP Office in asking for some public comment on what are some things that can be put into the guidelines to help make the examination guidelines more effective. And especially for the examiners, having been an examiner for myself at the USPTO now for over 34 years, but also, as I mentioned before, for applicants' representatives. And then once you have that IP, then it's enforcing that IP and being able to commercialize it and bring it to the market.
Thank you very much, Cannibal, John. And now let me come to Mr. Ben Jones. In the morning also, and in this title also, what we are talking about is about IP in digital age. And therefore, in the context of digital age, where lots of digital technologies are emerging, and how do the starting of application, application itself, and then processing, what Minister said in the previous session, how is it taking forward in your place, and what transition is required from the routine one to the digital one? Can you throw some light on that?
Certainly, and firstly, thank you very much, Professor. Thank you to you and indeed to the Indian IPO. And I'm Ben Llewellyn-Jones. I'm the Director for Business and International Policy from the UK's Intellectual Property Office. It's a pleasure to be here in Delhi from London, and I think a testament to the excellent cooperation the UK and India have, not least with Dr. Pandit's office. I think the first thing we'd say as an office that's going through this digital transition itself is that it requires a change from not just the office, but from customers too. And processes have to adapt. And the idea is to produce a frictionless process. And actually, technology can do that to some degree, but you can't replicate inefficient processes of the past. And I think there's an active dialogue now within our own system as to how to have one account for all IP that's held. That's a new innovation for us. But secondly, for all customers to be cognizant with how that frictionless approach can work. I think the second thing to say is digitization doesn't take away the need for rigor. And I think there's an assumption that speed and efficiency mean that rigor is somehow missed. And from watching our patent examiners use our new system, our new digital system, there is, if anything, more rigor and the ability to work with more rigor and more exactitude. And I think that should be reassuring to both applicants and indeed to officers. And I think the third thing to say as well is that I think it's fair to say that all IP offices, our own not least, is that are conservative organizations. We don't like to make mistakes. In fact, we don't make mistakes. And I think it's important when making these kinds of digital changes to eliminate error and to move at a pace that gives confidence. And I think that's exactly what we're doing in the UK. And indeed, I think that's giving confidence to applicants as they approach the system we're creating. So I think it's important to do, but to do it well. That's what I would say. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Ben. It's very exciting to know that stakeholder, not only consultation, awareness is also very important. Because we may transform our systems into digital systems, and unless the stakeholders are also involved in that, the success of that will not come. That is the story which you have mentioned very rightly. And now let me go to Dr. Vijay Chauthaiwale. And in the Indian perspective, based on the kind of filing that is happening in India, the growth story of India that is happening, we today talk about not only digital India on one side, but also in terms of Make in India, Startup India. There are many things which have been undertaken in the Bharat. In the light of that, how the creation of knowledge, which is in terms of converting into IP, finally has to find the light of the day in terms of getting into the society, useful applications to the society. So what are your thoughts on that, and how do we go about it?
First of all, thank you, Professor Sahasrabudhe, and also thank you, Professor Unnat Pandit, for inviting me here. So essentially, any creation of new knowledge or technology can have broadly two objectives. One is, of course, for the societal purposes, and also parallelly for the monetary gains. And both are equally laudable objectives. There are so many public sector initiatives that has been taken by this government, which has been very unique, including the very unique example of Aadhaar and UPI. These kind of technologies, they are open source technologies, and therefore it is very useful in implementing it in a wide variety of platforms, having a very large benefit to the society. Second part is of course, for the for-profit organizations. There, the criticality of IP cannot be overemphasized. The issue in India is that when we did the transition from the process patent to the product patent, there was a lot of confusion and also lack of understanding about IP. But thanks to the regulators and also in last 10 years, enormous initiatives taken by the current government, the awareness of IP has now gone up tremendously, and which is a good thing. I think in addition to filing a patent or protecting IP, monetizing is equally important. Because if we cannot monetize our IP, then it loses its value very rapidly over a period of time. And many of the time, this is a dilemma. For example, are we filing the patent too early before the technology is matured, or are we too late? Because this timing has its advantages and disadvantages. The second part is finding the appropriate complementary collaborations to further strengthen this IP. And the third is all commercial aspects of licensing, etc. And everything revolves on how tight what it is called as your patent or your IP is. And therefore, especially for the small and medium sector enterprises and as well as for academic institutions, these kind of strategic decisions will require a lot of expertise, and therefore I think that in the knowledge economy which India is striving for, and in next 25 years, as Prime Minister Modi ji has said, that it's going to be Amrit Kal for Bharat, the very good deep insight about IP in all stakeholders, both in the government, in the regulators, as well as in the entrepreneurs, is absolutely essential. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Vijay. Now we have Dr. Hiroki Watanabe from Japan.
Yes, nice to meet you.
I just wanted to ask you, there are a large number of patents filed by Japan, one of the countries with the highest number of patents, which will be going on next to the US. Yeah, right. And therefore, what is that culture of creating patents, whether it is in schools, colleges, universities, or from the industries? What are the factors which influence doing that? And subsequently, many of these are transformed into actual products, and then what we are talking about monetization is happening in a big way. So your experience of your place will help us to understand it better and go ahead.
Thank you for introducing me. So I'm Hiroki Watanabe from JETRO. JETRO is a Japan External Trade Organization. The purpose of the mission of my organization is to promote trade relationship between Japan and other countries. So I would like to comment on the question based on my experience in India. Actually, I have stayed in India for 2 years. So I have many questions. I have received many questions from many questions from Japanese company. It is similar to tendency. That is how to utilize IP rights in India. So as chairman introducing Japanese companies file patent application around 4,000 per year. It is second to United States. So Japanese companies have many patent rights in India, but it is not enough to utilize them. The background of such situation, I think it is a reason that Japanese companies think IP rights is part of litigation. So they grant patent to protect their technology. But in the digital age, this is the theme of today's session, I would like to add one more value of these aspects of IP rights. So recently, needless to say, the open innovation is very, very important. So we need to find out a partner. So, but actually, I have many queries from Japanese company. They want to find out the proper technological partner. So JETRO tried to find out such partner in India, but actually it is very difficult because it is a reason. The reason is that there is no tool to find out proper partner. So patent is public information and involves many technological field aspect information, but it is very difficult to search. So before my career, before this position, I worked in Japan Patent Office as a patent examiner. So I tried to find out the technology I try to search, but it is very difficult. So the reason is that database is not easy to not easy to operate to search to find out what we want to find out. So, but now the IT technology is very improved. So we can the IT technology like AI can support our search to find out technology or right partner. So it is my expectation. In the new age, we can find out the proper technological partner easily. So yes, it is my comment. Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Hiroki. In fact, we all know that from the traditional systems earlier, when we had to go to the library and hunt for information, the digital age has helped us to get all the information at our doorsteps, on our mobile phone to PC to laptop, and that's how it has become helpful. But that culture has to come in. Unless we have a system where innovation is inbuilt, unless we start thinking about it right from probably school days, and then support system in the colleges and universities, maybe then they can go to industry and still continue that same journey, but that is what is important. So Professor Prabuddha Ganguly, what is your take on how do we engage with students in order to create this kind of an ecosystem in the first place?
I think it's extremely relevant as far as we are concerned in the country. I would start, since we are talking about the digital and digitization process, and India is going through this huge revolution at a very rapid pace. If you take, I will start with the new education policy from there on, where a large part of the new education policy is all about getting accessibility, and accessibility to a digital media, digital processes, digital platforms. So one of the things that's going to be very important from our country's point of view is our copyright law sufficiently facilitative of this particular process? We need to look and re-examine our copyright law very carefully to ensure that there are sufficient enabling features that would really promote the principles and the objectives of the new education policy. That's the point number one. And once we do that, that will give rise to access to knowledge and all these other things quite freely. Freely, I don't mean in terms of freely in terms of money, but freely in terms of access. And therefore, our copyright law must look at those exceptions and limitations very, very carefully. I think it's time to relook at that. Point number one. Point number two, from our schools, colleges, universities, where we are all coming from, for a long time the government has been speaking about what we call as the one nation, one subscription policy. Now, it's a very important feature, so that not everybody goes on negotiating separate licenses with journals, information sources, etc. So we need, again from the digital point of view, to bring in and really implement, propose, put forth together, and actually the nation go ahead with the one nation, one subscription policy. Then it would open up that to the education institutions. That's the point number two that I would like to make. And point number three, which I'd like to make, is, for example, if you look at, we have heard yesterday and part of it today, when we look at some of the aspects that, our writers, for example, the script writers, the filmmakers, and everybody else, the creative industry. If you look at the creative industry, point is that we have these copyright societies and everybody. But do we have a common code? So that, we identify, we do all these things together. We do, I think we need to do these things a bit urgently and take it on. I would stop here and then take it further from
Yeah,
there.
thank you, Professor Prabudha Ganguly ji. Very important thing which you mentioned is about how national education policy, which came in 2020, or 3 years ago, is driving innovation in different ways. And also, your take on one nation, one subscription is important, because with about 55,000 odd colleges, which are some of them, most of them rather, affiliated to around 400 odd state universities, independently another 400 odd universities which are in the private sector, plus central universities, institutions of eminence, and institutions of national importance like IITs and NITs. Each one of them is struggling to find means, budget, for procuring those journals and the patent, information, all of that, which is a high fee. If some of the best institutes have this difficulty, you can imagine about those 50,000 institutions in tier 2, tier 3 towns and cities, and therefore one nation, one subscription is an important idea. But publishers also have to come forward and negotiate and get a price which is reasonable, which will work in the interest of both. That is what it is stuck right now, and hope we'll find the solution in the near future. Well, I would like to mention, I just got quick information from some activity which we started in AICT when I was the chairman of AICT, that we wanted to support filing of patents by the college students, which are in tier 2, tier 3 cities. They are not IITs, they are not NITs, they are not IIMs, they are not ICERs, triple ITs, but colleges affiliated to university in small places. We said if you file X number of patents, we will fund for your next X number of patents. And we had a target of 10,000 patents to be filed by these colleges. And we found 599 institutions in the country have filed 8,711 patents, and 5,361 published, and so far 355 have been granted. And there is a cycle of granting which takes little time. And since now we are all talking about digital ways and increasing the number of examiners and all that, I hope this 5,361 will convert into patents sooner than later. I hope Dr. Unnat Pandit is listening to what I am saying, and that is very, very important, significant. But given that there is some motivation, inspiration provided through some kind of an incentivization, but the brass tacks which we have found is our schooling system, our college system, our examination system is at the rock bottom, and we find that most of our university examinations, they are still based on rote learning. You study a subject, you learn all those chapters, notes given by the faculty, there are textbooks, you mug it up, and then the questions are such that you can reproduce without understanding. And that innovative spirit will not come out of that. And therefore, first and foremost thing is entire examination system should be transformed from currently whatever 3-hour system of examination to even open book examination, give a 1 week time, give open-ended problems, ask them to hunt for information, go and meet anyone who you like, come back and then submit that assignment. And based on that, if evaluation starts, I am sure right from school to high school to college and university, large number of innovative, activities will begin from the institutions and then finally IP generation. So may I come back to Mr. John? Now, based on all that what we have discussed and 5 panelists have told, what do you want our audience to know about this particular topic on your own? What is your take on any one of these things which we have discussed, and how do we go forward?
Thank you. It's a great broad question, so I can talk about anything I want. Thank you. No, I was sitting here thinking as all of the panelists were speaking that ultimately, especially we're talking about the topic of the panel today and digital transformation, and it's boils down to access to information. That's really what we want. Access to information. We already had some great dialogue earlier today that I don't need to repeat about, artificial intelligence and some of the complications that creates for IP and innovators. But ultimately, it means that, for India, it is a country of curious individuals that are thriving for more information. And I think a lot of the things that have recent initiatives underway have been put in place to help give that access across the entire country. And it's one of those things when we think about, I heard some comments that, earlier today about, India wanting to become an innovation-driven knowledge economy. I feel it already is an innovation-driven knowledge economy. It is curious, it is innovative, there are brilliant people, there's so much going on to help spur innovation and research, especially at the grassroots level. And when I look at my former role as the USPTO director in Silicon Valley, and working with startups and entrepreneurs and small and large businesses across the west coast of our country, it became really clear to me the incredible role that government-funded research plays in helping to kickstart these early-stage entrepreneurs, to help them explore and investigate and interrogate new solutions to solve our world problems. And through that, they're actually able to develop their own intellectual property, and it has this infectious snowball effect, as we like to say, where any IP that's created, any new knowledge or innovations that are created, it motivates another innovator to see how they can do that, how they can do it better, can they improve on it, can they also create their own IP and develop something. And then ultimately, these what used to be very small companies become very large companies, or even, or still small but bigger companies. And they end up becoming what we like to call IP-intensive industries. And in the US, we track that, and we've seen, we do these reports every couple years, and our most recent report uses data from 2019, and every time we do this report, it increases, but it now shows that 41% of our entire economy, of our gross domestic product, is contributed to these IP-intensive industries. And what is an IP-intensive industry? It's an industry that reinvests its revenue into creating new technologies, into creating new products, bringing new things to the market, commercializing. And a lot of that, what we see in these research IP-intensive industries, we see them even here from the US, here in India, that have their own funding sources to help startups here in India create and innovate and create their own IP here in India. So it's been that connection between the Silicon Valley and India was very strong. It's what drew me to come out here 3 years ago. And I felt the motivation that I hope we all felt from today's program back then. And it just, of course, COVID slowed that down, but glad to see that it is in full speed ahead. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. John. In fact, we also have similar issues and problems and solutions which we are looking forward to. And replicating Silicon Valley in places like Bangalore, in Hyderabad, in places like Chennai, Gurugram. All of these are possible places where similar things are happening. And you talked about snowball effect, and that's very important. Whatever you earn through this, through monetization, if you put back for further innovation, it's a cycle which will consolidate year after year, producing more IP, more patents, and that is what we are looking forward to. Now let me go to the other side, Dr. Hiroki. I wanted to ask you a very important, pertinent question. We all study in English here in most of the higher education institutions. Our gross enrollment ratio is hardly 27%. 27% of those people of the age group of those who are in age group of say 15, 16 to 23, they are only 27% in higher education, be it in science, arts, commerce, engineering, all together. That means after the grade 10, about more than 73% of the people are left out from the higher education. And therefore, whether in terms of information, whether in terms of technology, knowing about it and creating IP, they are not participating. Their participation is less. And therefore, yeah, in India, I'm talking about in India. I'm referring to you for a different reason. Most of these people study in their local mother tongue, their own languages. We have innumerable languages, 22 statutory recognized languages, and there are thousands of languages in which they converse and all that. And if everything available information is in English, they are devoid of this information in the first place, they can't understand it, they can't use it, and they cannot progress forward. Whereas with a background from Japan, your education is also in Japanese language. How do you get all that information available in English in your language? And thereby you continue to have innovation, you continue to have research, continue to have patents being filed in Japan.
Okay, so I'm sorry if my understanding is not correct. So in Japan, so first, contribution from young generation to innovation. So while I staying in India, I visited some universities in India, so like IIT or Amity University. So my feeling is different. So every university, in every university, every student is very, very proactive, and they has a passion to create new innovation or new business. Or so I'm a little bit amazed that only you feel the less participation from a young age. So comparison to the India situation, as you know, the Japan is an aging country, unfortunately. So the number of younger generation is decreasing. So it is a very big problem for Japan. So sorry, my comment is a little bit different from your question, but what I would like to expect is to promote relationship between India and Japan, and to create something new, collaborate. So because the younger generation is decreasing in Japan, so yeah, if our countries collaborate, I think I believe something new, innovation can be made. Thank you.
Dr. Hiroki, you're right, you know, Japan has aging population and India has bubbling young population. And therefore, unless we collaborate, the rich experience of the old with the young dynamic persons from college and students from schools, we come together, I'm sure that we will be able to do much better work, not only for your respective countries, but also for the entire globe. That's very important. There are challenges in terms of pollution, in terms of environment, in terms of, we all know SDG goals which we have to get to. So I think working together is also very significant and important. Dr. Ben Jones, coming to you, you know, we have this innovation center in every college or institute which we have started developing, including in science colleges, arts colleges, technical education, etc. And many of these ideas, they are wonderful ideas, some of them practicable, not practicable. And some of them, they go a little far and will be at, say, TRL level 1 or 2, and they die down. We all talk about in startups valley of death. And most of the great ideas also will go up to TRL 1, 2 and then die. What is it that you make in UK to make it convertible to level 3, 4, 5, have the journey till they reach the end and then convert it into really monetizable product, you know. That's very, very important, significant.
Thank you. It's an excellent question. I mean, I think the UK is fortunate to have sustained its position in the Global Innovation Index at number 4. We're very proud of that, but we're not complacent because, as we've heard, others are climbing up that list, and indeed, innovation requires innovation. I think to answer your question directly, I mean, there are really two golden triangles, we call them in the UK, where you see innovation being turned into, certainly in a university space, into monetization, which are really based around the two largest universities, I guess, in this space in the UK, Cambridge and Oxford. And whilst we wish to sustain that, I think that the challenge to ourselves is how to grow beyond that. But the frequency, I think, with which we see IP turned into effectively monetized products in those two golden triangles is partly a feature of practice, to be honest. It's the kind of people who are working there who are used to doing this. It's partly a feature of the capital that's attracted to those spaces as well, that the right people are thinking about this and able to access the right kind of capital. And I think it's also partly a function of the ability to fail. So many, as you say, don't make it, and yet the scale with which innovation is being created in those two golden triangles permits those that do succeed to get through and to come through. Failure it's a good thing. So Thomas Edison said, I didn't fail to make a light bulb 2,000 times. I learned how to make it once, and the other 1,999 times were just practice, basically. Or, I'm paraphrasing significantly, but nonetheless, failure is a good thing in some ways if you're going to succeed with innovation later. So I think the challenge to ourselves is how to grow beyond those two golden triangles, but really sustaining that is what we're about as well.
Thank you, Dr. Ben. It's very important. You talked about golden triangles. The failures also should be acceptable. Unless you fail, you don't learn, and therefore very important. Risk-taking is also equally important. Professor Prabodh Ganguly, you talked earlier about national education policy, how it is empowering. Very significantly, a new dimension has come that you don't necessarily require PhD to become a faculty member, assistant or associate and professor. We have brought in a system of what is called as professors of practice. People from industry, if they are brought into the education sector, their experience from there will be showcased to the students, and many innovative things can start happening. So how do we engage more and more of professors of practice in our education sector?
I think this is extremely important. In the last few years, if you look at some of the institutions in India, we've actually gone out to the industry. We have gone out to various parts of the world and have invited people to come in with a rich source of experience as professor of practice. And the advantage we have got out of that is that people now have the flexibility which was not there before. So you can come and spend certain number of days, certain few months to mutual convenience, work the things out that way, get the value of the experience, both from industry and other sources. And this is just beginning to work, right? And I don't think we have yet exploited it to the extent that we ought to, though we have the freedom to do it. So I think we need to promote it. More importantly, though IITs and higher institutions, other institutions of learning, are beginning to exploit it, those tier 2, tier 3 and those parts, we have not really taken this concept to that level. We need to take it more to that level. Even though I would say ICT had started this whole concept of bringing in people to mentor, that system needs to get a lot more at the ground level. And I'm sure, though conceptually it's great, we have to find ways of really making it happen on the ground. And in doing that, even utilizing all the digital platforms which are before us, which are available with us, I think we need to exploit it a lot more. So I think it's really working it on the ground that matters. I think the policies are there, but we need to make it happen.
Thank you, Dr. Ganguly. Let me come to Dr. Vijay. You have been not only a doctorate, but also worked in industry for quite some time, especially in biotech-related area, chemical technology area. So this is where lots of possible applications to the society exist. Say, for example, in agriculture, the kind of fertilizers to be used, the kind of insecticides to be used, not used, etc. In terms of healthcare systems, is also a very important issue. We have found that during COVID, how difficult it was to manage and then get to develop indigenous vaccine. And then we also have several applications which are in transportation sector and many other places. So how industry exposure can be given to students, thereby their innovativeness will enhance by leaps and bounds. Can you throw some light on
I think we talk a lot about industry academia collaboration or interaction, but the fact is that still things are not happening the way or at the level which we would like to have. And one of the main reason is that there is a strong mismatch between the expectations of industry from the academia, of the industry from academia, and vice versa. So, unless those expectations are matched, such collaboration is difficult. For example, many a times industry thinks that academics should give a technology them on a platter, which they can start production next day and start earning a profit. Or at the other side, many a times academics develop the technology which industry may not want it in many cases, or it's already available somewhere. So I guess collaboration at the early stages will be of immense useful. Now I would share experience of this Atal Innovation Mission, which I am a part of, and also Dr. Unnat Pandit was also part of it at some time point. It is a very unique experiment where the culture of innovation is being inculcated even at the school days. And this Atal Tinkering Lab, which one of them has received award today, is a classic example of it. The government has established more than 10,000 tinkering labs in the schools where students who otherwise don't have any exposure to scientific laboratory, their vision gets opened about the latest technology of robotics or 3D printing, etc. And since they are sort of incubator, challenging the novel ideas or challenging the most pressing problem in front of society, at every level, Atal Tinkering Mission, Atal Innovation Mission is trying to intervene and bring a culture of innovation in India. And I guess, and that is happening at the academic institutions, but at the same time, they are closely working with the industry. So such a collaboration at early stage, when the students are actually learning how to innovate, but at the same time, understanding what industry wants or what are the demands of industry, this kind of collaboration, if we can establish, I guess our productivity and our innovative ability will grow multifold. Thank you.
Vijay, we do have Atal Tinkering Labs, which number more than 10,000 today. And remember, they are all class 6, 7, 8 students bringing out some innovative ideas, experimenting on them, and some of them may convert into patents. I have a concrete example where a couple of students of 7th grade, 8th grade have filed several patents and they have been sanctioned. And some of them have productized and started their own entrepreneurial journey while in the school. And there are beautiful examples of this nature, but numbers are very small. How do you scale up? You know, in India with 1.4+ billion population, naturally scaling up is very, very important so that it will have an impact. And that is where we need to understand what are the possible avenues. Similar to Atal Tinkering Labs, we have several fab labs, or we call idea labs in AICT, which have been started in in the institutions with 50% budget from government, 50% to be pitched in by themselves, so that they have a stake in that. Otherwise, sometimes only the grant is given, they will take it and keep it, Whereas if you are involved in also putting in some money, naturally you get involved in it. Well, now we had 2 rounds of discussions from all the panelists. You had some insight into why and how IP is to be generated, how it can be monetized, how we can support systems to be created. But now let us get to the audience, and if they have any suggestions or questions to any one of the panelists, you can raise your hand and then we can continue for some more time till the organizers say, now it is time for you to go. We will continue to do some more exercise. Anyone? Yes, please, sir. No, you have a mic? Can be to anyone. Dr. Selvamurthy, you introduce also.
Thank you, Professor Anil Sahasrabudhe, the chair. I am Dr. Selvamurthy. I am the Chancellor, Amity University, Chhattisgarh, and also I am the president for all Amity institutions in India and abroad for research, innovation. I served DRDO, Government of India, for 40 years. Now, I have a few suggestions, because first of all, compliments to the chair and the panelists for these wonderful ideas that how do you convert Saraswati to Lakshmi and monetizing the patents. You create a patent and then ultimately you need to commercialize. One of the ecosystems in India which is lacking this conversion of monetizing the patents, which could be at 2 stages. One as a patent, the other one is translating them into a deliverable. It could be a product, technology, or a process. This is where the gap is. In our system of education, we are encouraging more publications. If you look at the universities or AICT institutions, and we only ask how many publications you have, what is the impact factor, what is the citation index. Nobody asks how many product or prototype or a deliverable you gave, or how much is the industry impact of your research. So I think we must change the evaluation system in our universities, in the PBAS, and all the ACRs, CPARs, that you must ask this question, that how much is the focus on your translational research? You might have published paper, you have filed the patent, but then what is the next step? So this is one suggestion for AICT, UGC, that you must create an incentivizing system, which you mentioned, that you must ask this question, that how many prototypes, how many products you developed or technologies you developed. So this is one. The second is the TRL, which you mentioned about. DST has started some initiative of establishing Technology Enabling Center. If you have a TRL 2, 3, then how do you convert them into 6, 7, or 8 so that the industry will take it up for commercialization? So this is the second suggestion, that TECs should be very active, connect with the institutions so that it will give a regional coverage to all institutions. The other part is, the last part which I want to give is the industry connect, which is very, very low in our country. The institutions, universities, AICT institutions, or even IITs, there's much to be desired in terms of a strong industry connect. The confidence level of industry for our academic institutions and academic institutions delivering to the cultural need of the industry is really not taking place. So this is the gap area which we need to address. Amity system, just only one more minute, has made this ecosystem possible, right from schools to the universities. We have more than 2,020 patents, and we have 30 technologies have been commercialized. So we established those processes, ecosystem, and we incentivize giving 20% of the share to the inventors. Suppose if a technology is transferred. So similar could be incentivizing is very important, so that people look at the money, monetizing. So what is the value I get as an inventor? So these are some suggestions.
Thank you, Dr. Selvamurthy, about the translational research which you talked about, rather than giving importance to research publications in journals. Many of the parameters which we ask for in accreditation or in ranking, if we start changing it, naturally people will start looking into it. And that's what has happened already. Few changes are done in the accreditation process, asking for parameters, how many patents, how many of them are translated into real products and conversion. All those are given points, then naturally they get 0 point in that, then they will start asking for more and more. You know, that is one area through which we do. And both Industry Connect, which Vijay Chauthaiwale also talked, and you also talked. Many, decades, we have been talking about industry-institute interaction. And what happens in most of the places is, once in a year, there is a seminar like this, 1 day, 2 days, we come together, shake hands, have a cup of tea, lunch, dinner, and then move out, and then come next year again. I think we have to move on from there, and therefore the terminology itself is also very important. Rather than saying industry-institute interaction, it's only interaction. We should talk about collaboration, which is also happening now. We sign MOUs with industries, but many of those MOUs are dormant, and those files are kept in the almirahs of the university to say that we have 100 MOUs signed with industries. But what is really required is industry-institute partnership. When you become partners, both are having the same stakes. And industry in terms of employable graduates on one side, and also in terms of new innovations which come in, they will be making use of it. Therefore, they will involve in curriculum development. They will involve in supporting creation of new research labs. They will involve in also in examination system. I think once that happens, that partnership is very important. I think you hit the nail. There will be some examples. Dr. Prabuddha wants to give some example on how some of these best practices are possible to be, taken forward elsewhere.
Correct. So I just want to give you examples. Say, for example, in Pune, in one of the universities in Pune, and I wouldn't mind mentioning the name, because then you have an example in front of you, is Vishwakarma University in Pune. I'm a member of the Board of Governors of Vishwakarma University. And what has been done there in the last 5 years is that partnership with industry. So industries in and around Pune have actually become partners of the university. Right there, they have identified certain evolving technologies. They said, we want something like this, and if it comes to a point, we will commercialize it. So that's the point, the starting point. Point number one. Point number two, as you rightly said, with these things as they get developed, this becomes a part of the curriculum. That has become a part of the curriculum. That's point number two. Point number three, because students and faculty with the industry are involved, when pilot plants and many of these things are being made, they're all a part of it. And the industry has already begun to take, in these last 5 years, a couple of them, I won't say all of them, we must be having about 8 or 10 such partnerships. 2 have gone into fluctuation. So I think that's the learning that we have gone through that. We would be prepared to share that learning with anyone who's interested in doing that. But we can make it happen. It's not impossible. It's a question of exactly, just as Dr. Murthy mentioned about it. We need to really focus. We need to put it all together, and we can make it happen. And I'll tell you one of the most advanced technologies which has been developed, and this is shortly going into commercialization by the company, which funded the whole thing. The IP is shared between the company and but the right to use it and commercialization is with the company, and the company is actually paying. So the university is earning through that. And then there's a benefit sharing arrangement to that.
Thank you, Dr. Ganguly. I think there are many best practices. I hope all of you will share those best practices on a common portal. And also, we have an internship portal. I just wanted to mention, no one mentioned about that. Our college and university students who are studying in universities, unless they go to the real life practice sessions and look at what is happening there, innovation will not come out. And therefore, mandatory internship for all graduating students, whether they are from domain of arts, commerce, business, economics, engineering, pharmacy, architecture is very, very critical. And we have a national level portal. I don't know how many of you know. It's a AICT's internship portal where 1.5 crore students, 15 million students are registered. And around 3 million students have been given internship from small scale, medium scale, large scale industries, including some of the NGOs. I think going out of the institute, out of the box thinking will bring in innovation. With these few words, I think the organizers, oh, you want to ask something?
Sir,
So we wanted to close, so anyway, yes, yes, then now there are more hands.
I'm an advocate and patent agent and attorney. This question is on behalf of Indian patent agents and attorneys. Since the panelists they comprise of global IP authorities, can we follow some kind of guideline which is very common in US, certified patent valuation analysis? So can we have that kind of thing in India in order to support our grassroots innovators for commercializing their inventions? This question is to Prabuddha Ganguly panelist, sir, because we feel that he's the Buddha of IPR in India.
Very quickly, the idea is very good. We should be doing it because if you look at the startups in India, though we are talking about the numbers, the quality of patents that are filed by the startups are quite poor. And that's the reason the startups, when they start developing, they are not able to commercialize fully and take full advantage of the IP. So if we have this type of a process in the country, it would be great. And I would even go a step further, that if we tell our different attorney firms in the country, if each one of them, good ones, can adopt 2 or 3 startups and let the government come and create a new policy that this is a part of CSR, something like that.
Question from somewhere, yeah, yes, sure.
Very good evening to all. I just in continuation with what Sir from DRDO, I'm sorry I forgot your name. Just in continuation with his suggestions, my suggestion is in last few years, IITs have set up a technical park and technical innovation hub. If such kind of things and policies are implemented at NIT levels and in other professional colleges, engineering colleges, which are private engineering colleges, then I think this kind of innovation culture can be promoted and it should be, if it can be incorporated, just like Dr. Prabuddha Ganguly just now told about the other university, Vishwakarma University, which he is board of directors. Likewise, and for, unfortunately, for biotechnology courses, there is no such enforcement program like internship, which should be made compulsory, because I am immunologist turned IPR professional and I am practicing IPR since last 16 years. And I have 11 years of diagnostic industry experience. And what I find is...
Madam, it is available for all domains. Now it depends on corresponding industry, corresponding educational institutions providing internship on one side and takers on the other side. It is like matchmaking portal which is available based on AI. So I think it's not that it's not available.
They are not using it. If it is enforced compulsorily for various institutes and
those who are in biotechnology,
colleges,
which is an engineering program, it is mandatory. But in BSc,
MSc
or
biotechnology,
MSc, it is not compulsory.
Yes,
but
yes.
slowly UGC is also doing the same thing. So you will soon require
they
internship to be
offer independent internship programs.
Sure. Okay. Yours is the last one.
Yeah, last one, and I'll do it quickly. Just two things I just want to point out. Regarding MSMEs, these are real growth engines and provide most of the employments in the country. So, should we not work on the policy related to the MSME, wherein they create more and more IP, and the banks on the one side come forward and mortgage those IPs and give them loans so that they can expand themselves? This is one of the major things that needs to be done. One program, SIPP, is being run by the patent office, but I don't think that serves much of the purpose, because unless they come and innovate, the awareness is created, we are not going to see much development, because MSMEs are the one which can grow. One who has
Yeah, absolutely agreed. MSME is the backbone for the large industry, in fact. So therefore, they will have the same value. I hope people from DIPPT are all.
And sir, one more thing, like what you did for AICT for the.
We will discuss offline also later.
Sure, sir.
Okay, after the function.
Thank you.
is over. So, on behalf of the organizers, I thank all the panelists for bringing in different perspectives. I'm very thankful to you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you very much. Now, as I can see, many of you have left, though we had one more session, but we are keeping it for tomorrow. And that was all for the day. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being such a wonderful audience. Thank you once again. Have a wonderful evening ahead.